Good morning. We're learning as a schusser for Shlema Feilana Chaya Basarach. So we're in the middle of Samach Test, toward the bottom of Samach Test Amid Beis. We're going to go back a little, but we're just going to first remind ourselves that in the Mishnah, there's a machlekes or main Rabbi Yehuda when someone does malika on a oif tahar, right? Malik benimtzis treifa. They do malika and they find that it's a treifa. Rameya says it's not going to be. It's you did the malika. You have the animal's not an animal that died without a form of sheet that had a malika, and even though it's treifa, that doesn't affect it. It's not going to be tame like an avail. Yehuda, I remember Matama, and Yehuda disagrees. Yehuda says it is Matama. So the Mishnah had said the reason of Rameir is from a Kalvachaimer, and so we brought the reasons of why the others were chaylik on the Kalvachaimer. But now we're going to discuss Rabbi Yehuda's reasoning. Rabbi Yehuda had said that it doesn't become that when you do malika on a oif tar, makadosh an oif, and then you do malika on it, and you find it to be treifa, he says it doesn't get a tumas nevel. So we're going to start from Amar of Yehuda, about a little more than halfway down. Amar of Yehuda, treifa lo manamra. Why does the Torah say? Torah says, "V'chol nefesh eshateichel nevelu treifa." Whoever eats a nevelu or treifa be'ezrach ba'ger v'chibis b'gadol b'atzma have a tummy out of ar v'tir. It's one of the psukim that tells us the isser of nevela not the isser that a nevela becomes tummy. But it doesn't just say nevela in the pasuk; it also says treifa. So Yehuda asked, treifa lamanema. Why did it mention treifa? Because he says a cheshbon. Im treifa chaya, if a treifa lives, hare nevela amura. So what does it mean? That means the treifa is living, and eventually it didn't have. We're talking about where it didn't. At this point, we're assuming it's talking about where there was no shchita, there was no malika. So it eventually died. Hare nevela amura. You already said a nevela is metama. What does he have to tell you a treifa? What difference does it make if it's additionally a treifa? Im treifa ein chaya, and if a treifa is going to die, hare bechlal nevela. The way Taisus explains Rashi, it means that if an avela is going to die, then it already has a din of an. I'm sorry, if a treifa is going to die, it already has the din of an avela even while it's alive. If someone were to take a little bit of the basar of a behemoth, and while it's alive, first of all, I don't know if it'd be aver and a chayev, if it's not an aver, but in addition to that, it would be metamim, because if the animal is already treated as dead, a dead animal has the din of an avela. Now we're going to see later on that as long as it's alive, it doesn't have it. But the basar, l'chayra was saying, could get a din of treifa. So, but the bottom line is, what he's asking is, if we're talking about a treifa that didn't have a shchita, there's no need to say it. It's either going to be, if it dies, then it's a regular nevela, and if it didn't die, then it already is bechlal nevela. The basar has a din of nevela. That's what he says. So the word nevela is extra when it says it the word treifa is extra when we say it by the tumas nevela. Lahevi treifa sheshachta v'she tama. Shemetama. It's coming to tell you our din of our Mishnah. That's what Rabbi Yehuda said. It's coming to tell you that if you do malika or you do shchita on an oif tar, that it's going to be metama if it's a treifa. That shchita and that malika are not going to be effective to make it no longer it's normally when you do shchita, you do malika. It makes the behemoth not an avela. An avela is an animal that died, normally not one that has a shchita or a malika. But since this oif was a treifa, we say that it did that malika and that shchita did not do anything. Okay, that's Rabbi Yehuda's drasha, but this is going to be very controversial, as usual. Amalei Rav Shizbi. Rav Shizbi says, if you're going to say that the word treifa, that it says by the Tuma of Nevela, is coming to tell you treifa that was oif treifa that was nishchat, that they got a shchita, that it's tamei, elamayata d'chsiv v'chelav nevela v'chelav treifa. There's a pasuk that's talking about, obviously, if we're talking about chelav, we're not talking about birds anymore. We're out of the world of birds. Birds don't have chelav. Chelav is in animals. The pasuk says v'chelav nevela v'chelav treifa eyasa l'chol malacha. Pasuk says that the chelav of an avela and the chelav of a treifa could be used for any work. It's chelav, as we know, is also to eat. It's also to eat even if you do a good shchita. The chelav is also of a behema is also. Just to remind you that the chelav of a chaya is not also to eat. But this pasuk is telling us a din that we wouldn't have really thought about. Probably I wasn't aware of it before we saw this Gemara. That although the chelav of a behema is also to eat, it's excluded from the din of the tumah of nevela. Even though if an animal dies, if you take the leg of the animal and you touch it, that's going to make you tamei tumas nevela. But if you touch the chelav, that does not metame you, because the Torah says yeyasa l'chol malacha, you can do whatever you want with it without becoming tamei. So Torah, this pasuk is telling you a exception from the din of tumah of nevela, that chelav of a behema is not metam. So it's Dr. Shizbi. That would says v'chelav nevela v'chelav treifa. This pasuk doesn't just say nevela; it also says treifa. So it's very similar to our pasuk. It says chelav nevela v'chelav treifa. Now, what does a treifa have to do with anything? It's a very similar pasuk to our pasuk of the tumas nevela. And we're having that same pasuk, Lagabi, the tour of chelav. That chelav is not metab. Hasam nami. So let's say in that pasuk of treifa, im treifa chaya harei nevela amurim treifa ena chaya harei b'chlal nevela. Like we said before, if the way Rabbi Yehuda darshan the word treifa, that it says by the tumas nevela, let's darshan the same way. Let's ask the same question that it says by treifa of chelav, and say that if a treifa lives, then it's already part of. Then when it dies, it becomes an avela anyway. And if it doesn't live, then it's already an avela on its own. So what does the Torah have to tell you, treifa? Elahevite treifa sheshachta shechel v'tar. Rather, it's coming to tell you a treifa that you shechted, just like we said, the treifa that it said by tumas nevela. Now this treifa that it says by the tour, the tyra of chelav, it's coming to tell you, Gabi, also a treifa that you shechted. You found it to be a treifa. It's coming to tell you shechava tar, that its chelav is tar. But we learn from that, mechlal, dihi metama. But you can deduce from that the behema itself, that only the chelav is tar, but the treifa that you shechted is going to be metama altan avela, and that's not the case. Excuse me. Miktas behema metama, miktas behema ain metama. Some behemoths are going to be metama altan avela, and some won't. The ezu, which is the one that is not metama, zu treifa sheshachta. That's a treifa that you shechted, a behemoth treifa that you shechted, right? We've been talking, the original limud of Yehuda was talking about a oif that was a treifa that you shechted. But we're learning from the pasuk. V'chiyamas min hamehema, v'chiyamas, what is the whole pasuk? V'chiyamas min hamehema asher hi lachem la'achla, and Gemara says yitmar arav. So it's telling you that it's only a behema that dies. But if you shecht a behema, and it's even though it turns out to be a treifa, it's not gonna be metama. So we're back to what is this treifa? What is this treifa that it says in the pasuk of Chalev, of the Ptur of Chalev? What is it teaching you? So, Ela treifa. What are you going to do with it? Ela treifa mi bayale lemute tame. It's coming to be mimayit a tame. That means you could have a behema tahira and you could have a behema tameya. A behema tahira is like a cow or a goat, and a behema tahira, a behema tameya is a pig or a what do you call it? A lion. So it's coming to you misha yesh b'mina treifa. It's coming to only something that has a difference. If it's treifa, then it's going to be possible. If it's not treifa, then it's going to be allowed to eat. Yatzusha e b'mina treifa. It's coming to exclude. So that's what the pasuk over there by Chalev is coming to exclude a behemoth tmeya, that the Chalev of a behemoth tmeya is not going to be tar if it doesn't make a difference if you shechted or not. So I think it's always an avela. So it's the basa or the Chalev of even the Chalev of a non-kosher animal. It's going to be mitam. So tomorrow, okay. So now so once you're saying that, we could add on. We could say make the same drasha by our treifa. We just said this legabe chalev. Why don't we say the same legabe our pasuk of nevela? Hachnami lemute oif tamesh ebi mina treifa. Let's say that it's coming to exclude oif. That's tamei. Instead of saying it's coming to tell you, like Rabbi Huda wants to say, that the word treifa is coming to tell you that a treifa sheshachta is metama. Let's say it's coming to exclude an oif tamei, that it's not going to be included in the yisur she'en b'mina treifa. There's no treifa or not treifa by oif tamei. It's always going to be asatit. So no, Rabbi Huda doesn't need. You wouldn't have that pasuk. Treifa is really extra to tell the din of a treifa sheshachta. Oif tamei Rabbi Yehuda min nevela nafkalei. He learns it from the word nevela. The Tanya Yehuda Aimer Yachol Yehei Nivlas Oif Tama Mitama Begadim Abeis Abliya. I might think, right? We're going to see where this is the limud. He's going to say a different limud for the din of an Oif Tame, that it's not Mitama Benevela. We learn it out from. I might think maybe the nevela of an Oif Tame should also be Mitama Begadim Abeis Abliya. Time of Leimer nevelu treifa lo yoichel. The Torah says nevelu treifa lo yoichel. Our pasuk, this is the second pasuk. Nevelu treifa lo yoichel l'tama ba'ani Hashem. Misha isur mishum bal toichel nevela. That's only telling you the isur of nevela is only on someone who has an isur because of nevela. Yatzazu shein isur mishum bal toichel nevela mishum bal toichel tamei. It's a non-kosher bird. This is a eagle. It has its own reason for being tamei, so he's not included in this isser of nevela. So therefore, we have according to Yehuda, we have the word treifa that it said in the first pasuk. That's available to tell you of a treifa sheshachta that it's not matam, that it is matam. Sagt Gemara. That's back. This is all a discussion of whether this word treifa that Yehuda learned, that, like we said in our mission, if you were moilik a oif or you shechted an oif and you found it to be a treifa, does it have a din of an avela to be metama b'beis abliya? So he was trying to say that the word treifa is extra, but we said we were just saying we needed to tell you, to tell you that a behemoth tmeya is excluded from the tumas nevela. So he said, no, we have a different pasuk. It says nevelu treifa yoichel mishum bal toichel nevela. So we have a different pasuk to tell you. So the original treifa is available again to tell you Rabbi Yehuda's din, what he said in the Mishnah. Right, we're all starting in the beginning. We're going back to our original discussion of what's Rabbi Yehuda's reason. He says from Treifa, so we went all to these side issues of whether the pasuk is used for something else. So we said those other things, the din that we wanted to learn from somewhere else, we could the din of Eif Tameh, we could learn out from a different pasuk. So we don't need Treifa for that. Correct the Gemara. So you're saying, correct the Gemara, but what do you need this pasuk? We're saying from this pasuk on Perek Chaf Beis, this pasuk of Nevelu Treifel Yoichel Tamaba, to tell you that a Oif Tameh is excluded from Nevela. Hi Nami typically. Why don't we learn it out from the pasuk of B'chelev Nevela, B'chelev Treifel Yasel Chol Malacha V'Oichel Lo Yiseklu? Why don't we learn it out from our pasuk of B'chelev Nevela that we say by Chelev? So once we're saying that you learn out that a behemoth tmeya, a oif tame is excluded because the Torah says nevela. So it's only someone loisaychlu, only something that's iser comes because it's a nevela that's moitzi oif tame, which is not because of the tmeya. So he says, let's say the same thing from that pasuk of that we said by chelev. We said that the chelev of a nevela is mutter. Hainami typically mechelev nevela mishu yisum mishum bal teichel chelev nevela yatu she'en yisum mishum bal teichel chelev nevela emshum tamei. Why don't we say the same thing that only a oif tar, just like we say that a oif tar, which is iser, is because of nevela, it's metama. This din that a behema that of a chelev, the chelev of a behema tmeya is not tar, which we had said we learned out from the pasuk of Treifa. Why do we learn it out from the fact that it says Bal Teichel, only from a behema that is its isser is because of its the vela, not something that's isser comes from someone else. Once we make such a drasha, let's apply that also l'gabe the din that we said l'gabe the chelev of a behema. So again, so we're stuck. If that's the case, so according to Yehuda, l'chari doesn't make sense. You can't say that the pasuk of treifa. If you're going to use the treifa for the din of behema tmeya, so we should apply the same thing. L'gabe the chelev of an avela. So Gemara. The Zaktamara, no. With this pasuk mechelev nevela, we the reason why we can't learn out from there, we need it for something else. Alahai treifa, that treifa that it says the chelev nevela mishum mishum, it says the chelev nevela the chelev treifa yasal chol malacha is mibayle lasuya chaya. It's coming to tell you the din of a chaya, meaning a chaya that's of a behemoth tahira that died, so didn't have a shechita, that it also is going to be tar. That the chelev, right? The chelev of a chaya is also going to be tar. Sagda chamina, misha chalva aser upsara mutter. I would say by a behema. The behema, the din is that there's a separate din for the chelev and the basa. The chelev of a behema you're not allowed to eat, and the basa of a behema you could eat. Yotzazu, but a chaya is like a deer. A deer is a different category. It's although we know chelev is literally the main example that we ever give of a lav is always say eating chelev, but there's no iser chelev on a deer. The chelev of a deer is mutter to eat. It's only on domesticated animals. So I would say the din of the tour of chelev, that which we say that chelev of an avela is mutter, That only applies Misha Chalva also Psar Mutter. That's only a behema. Yatzazu, but a Chaya Shechalva Psar Mutter, maybe its Chalev is also going to become an Avela. Kamash Malan. So that's what we need the pasuk of Treifa. Amalei, he asked him, Maishna Tmeya de Einchel v'Chalik Miksara. What's the difference? Why is it Tomei? Right. Zach the Gemara. How could you say that the Chalev of a Chaya is Tar? Maisha Tmeya. We said about a Tmeya, the Einchel v'Chalik Miksara, that its Chalev it has the same din as the Basar, that both Asar Ba'achila. And therefore, it's not included in the pasuk that's Matar Chalev. Chayanami Einchel v'Chalik Miksara. You can't say that the pasuk is coming to tell you, because Chaya also should be the same as the Behemoth Tmeya, because of the fact that it has the same din for its Chalev as Basar. Although the Tmeya it's Asar, and over here it's Mutter, one wouldn't have thought that would be a good comparison. But the pasuk says, as we're going to see in the Brisa on the bottom of the Yomid, that's coming to tell you that you can't eat the it should not be potter. The Eichel Tachlu should come to exclude a behema achaya from Eichel Tachlu. Yeah, that should also be. We're going to explain later. The Bright's going to explain what the drasha is from that pasuk. So we're back to the same problem, that why do we, if Rabbi Yehuda is darshaning from the pasuk of treifa, the word treifa that it says by an oif that you shecht and you found it to be a treifa, why don't we have that same pasuk of treifa? Why don't we also use it legabe the din of chalev, the pasuk of chalev? Zach the Gemara, Amra Abaya, treifa legufa etzrach. No, you need the treifa over there for its own purposes, not to tell you that then that chalev is going to be the chalev, that the treifa who you shecht and you find to be chalev, that it's going to be aser. You need it for its own din. I might say, since a tameh is also mechayim, whether it's alive or dead, non-kosher animal is non-kosher. Utreifa asur mechayim, and treifa, like we said before, even when it's alive, if you eat a kazayis of its basa, you're mechayiv. Ma tmeya chelva tamei, av treifa chelva tamei. I would say that so too the chalev of a treifa, just like a tmeya, its chalev is tamei. There's no tour of chalev on a behemoth tmeya. So to a treifa, its chalev is going to be tamei. So tomorrow, ihachi, hainamin boy. Shall I tell you how oif tamei also bachilu treifa asura bachira. Ma oif tamei eine metama, af treifa eine metama. So the Gemara, if we're saying that if you want to be to put into the same category a behema that you find that it's treifa to a behema that became a treifa to a behema that was a behema tmeya. So let's say the same thing by a oif. Let's say maybe by a oif tamei. Right, we were talking about a behemoth tmeya. What about an oif tamei? Also bachilo treifa. Also, I would say, shall I tell you? Let's say since an oif tamei is also bachila and a treifa is also bachila, ma oif tamei ain't metama, af treifa ain't metama. And this is not like Rabbi Yehuda, right? Rabbi Yehuda is saying that a oif treifa that you shecht is metama. So why wouldn't we make that same libud? But oif mikal a male of treifa mitmeya How could you learn out a treifa from Tmeya? Tmeya l'hoisel l'shas hakosher, treifa hoisel l'shas hakosher. A behema Tmeya, a lion was non-kosher from the time it was born, but a treifa, when it was born, it was healthy, and then later on, it developed some flaw that makes it not viable to live. So how can you compare the two? If you'll say, okay, you're right that not every treifa, so treifas, some of them develop later, but there's some treifas that happen that as soon as they're born. So maybe on that one, you should be able to learn treifa from Tmeya. So, but mina mia ikka. It doesn't. That's not the point. Even if there is an example of a treifa that is mibeten, but the ultra treifas are not mibeten. So since you have some that are not mibeten, you shouldn't be able to learn it out from a tmeya, which is always from birth. So again, we're left. We have a kasha. We have a good kasha on Abaya. So we're going to have to come up with a different explanation. Ela Amar Rava. Hatayra Amar Yavi Yisin Avela V'Yichal Alisa Chelev. The Torah said the Isin Avela. The reason why we need the pasuk of Treifa by Chelev is for a different reason. The Torah is telling you that if you have a behema that is not it's not shechted, it's going to have both an Isin Avela V'Yichal Alisa Chelev. You're going to be chayiv for two things. You're going to be both chayiv for an Avela as well as for eating a chalev. They're both going to be chal. So come on, Torah Amar Yavi Yisin Avela V'Yichal Alisa Chelev. Yavi Yisin Treifa V'Yichal Alisa Chelev. Both the pasuk of Nevelu Treifa, it's going to tell you that both of them are going to be chal, even though there's in addition to the Isser Chelev, there's also going to be the Isser. If it's a Treifa, you're chayiv for the Isser Treifa and you're chayiv for the Nevelu. And we need to tell you both of these things. The Yashmin and Nevela. If I were to tell you that you have Nevela in addition to Chelev, Mishum de Mitame, because the Nevela has a din that it's Mitama. Aval Treifa Imalai. Treifa doesn't have Treifa is not Mitama. The Yashmin and Treifa Mishum Disur Mechayim, because it comes while it's alive. Aval Nevela Imalai. Nevela only happens. The Issa Nevela only comes after it's dead. Tzrich. That's why we need both of them. Okay, so that is Rava's conclusion of what we do with the treifa, the velu treifa that it says by Chelev, and therefore Rabbi Yehuda has the treifa that it says by Nevela to tell you the din that a oif that you shechted and you found to be a treifa that it's tam. So the Marver Meir high treifa my avid lay, right? We have to come up with this whole alternative explanation of what you do. Rabbi Yehuda has to have this treifa, and we've proven that it's extra. So Rameya, who doesn't use it to tell you the din of a treifa shchuta that it's tamei, what is he going to do with this word treifa? It's coming to exclude when you shecht. What does that mean? It's coming to treifa with a shchuta by an oif when it's done lifnim. That such a that even though you're supposed to do malika, if you do shchita, it's not going to be metama Thomas Nevela. For Yehuda, treifa achriniksev. We have two psukim of treifa. We have the treifa that it says in Perek Yud Tesvav, and you have the treifa that it says in Perek Chof Beis in Vayikra. So we use the second treifa. Rameya, what does he do with that extra treifa? So, right, we started off, what does Rameya do with treifa? So we said he needs it to tell us this din of a oif that was shechted inside. So now it's instead of malika. So now so we said, where's Rabbi Yehuda going to learn it from? We said from the other treifa. So what does Rameya do with the other treifa? Rameya chad lamuta shchita she lifnim, chad lamuta oif tamei. One is to tell you shchita she lifnim, and the other one is like he said from the beginning to exclude an oif tamei. I'm sorry, he's saying it's coming to exclude an oif tamei, an oif that's not a non-kosher bird, an eagle. That also is not going to be metama. the whole din of Tumah Bebeis Habliya, even though by a behema there's a din of nevela both on a behema tahira and a behema tmeya, but legabi ifis the iser of Tumah Beis Habliya of a nevela is only on a iftar. An iftame is more kal; it doesn't have that Tumah of Tumah Bebeis Habliya. So Zakta Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda, where is he going to learn out an iftame? Minavela nafkale. He learns it out from the pasuk Nevela Trefel Yochel Tamaba Niyashem. Rameir Hai Nevela Mayavadle. What is he going to do with that Nevela? L'shir Achila B'Kazayis. He uses that to tell you that the Isser Achila of Nevela is with Kazayis. The Torah says Lo Yochel. It's coming to tell you that the amount that it takes to become Tameh is the Shir Achila, the amount that you would eat. Why can we learn that from the first pasuk? It also says that you can't eat nevela. What do we need this second pasuk? The pasuk, we already have a pasuk that says nevela in a lashon achila. So again, what is this second nevela coming to tell you? So one is to tell you that you have to have a kazayis in order to be metama. V'chad, that the shir achila of a kazayis, and chad la shir shir b'chdei achilas pras. If you eat the nevela to be mechayiv on the isser of achilas nevela, it has to be b'chdei achilas pras, the amount of time to normally eat a loaf of bread. Sa'akadai techamina. I would have thought hayil v'chidishu yoyse b'chdei achilas pras nami l'tama. I would have thought, since it's a chiddush, meaning that the whole din that a oif is mitama, the beis habliya. It's unlike other tumas that you're only going to be tamei from eating it. So we're talking about the so he's saying first of all you need a shirachila because in order to be mitama a beis habliya, and the second one is you have to eat it b'chtei achilas pras. I would think since this whole tumah is unique, the only type of tumah that you chayiv just for eating it is a oif tar, so maybe it doesn't need a kazayis, and it doesn't need b'chdei achilas pras, like everything else that you eat. So kamash malon, that's what we need, the two psukim, one to tell you that it has the same shear of a kazayis, like any isser of eating. The tumah of an oif tar is also going to need a kazayis, and also that it needs b'chdei achilas pras, just like any isser tumah, it's also going to be by the tumah of a iftar that's matama beis habliya. Okay, I'm going to stop over here. I'm sorry if I was a little less clear than usual.